You. I'm fortunate in one respect. You were talking about your General Assembly and how crazy it was. Well, I'm from the People's Republic of Maryland. And I've discovered in the time I've lived there that there's no liberal idea too stupid for them to make into law. Just before I left to come here, I learned that the Maryland Senate passed a bill that will allow in-state tuition for the children of illegal aliens. And since the Senate is supposedly the more conservative of the two bodies, it's almost guaranteed to pass the House of Delegates. So now we're going to be more of a sanctuary state than we already are. And I read about the things that are going on in Prince William County, and it's amazing to me. Here we are across the river, and you can see things being done in Virginia, and you can see things that work, and they still don't get it. And it's one of those situations where if you took away the DC suburbs in Baltimore, you'd have a red state. But they've got more people. Now, we had one anomaly, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this tonight because it is one of those things that's kind of interesting. The Senate passed a bill to allow same-sex marriage in Maryland. And I was convinced that once it got to the House of Delegates, it was a done deal. Because as I said before, they're the much more liberal of the two houses. Well, it didn't make it out. They had to put it back into committee, and it's done for this session, so we won't see it again until next year. And the reason that happened will it may not surprise you. The constituents of Prince George's County, which is predominantly black, the most affluent black county in the nation, called their legislators and pummeled them about this bill until they changed their votes and they determined they didn't have enough votes to make it happen. So rather than embarrass themselves by putting it out on the floor, they took it back into committee. And that is one of those dichotomies that I've been dealing with almost my entire life. If you look at the way, and those of you who've bought the book will read about this, when I was raised as a conservative. If you look at the things my parents taught me, the values we had, they were church-going people, they were pro-family, pro-marriage, they believed in hard work and personal responsibility. They didn't like it when people took advantage of the system. And my grandfather owned several guns, and he'd point one of them at you if you tried to take it away from him. So you strip away race, you strip away all these other things. This was a conservative family. Yet here they had on the mantle a picture of Jesus Christ, John F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King. And they were Democrats. So I leave home, I go to college, I start getting involved in politics in college, and I start to look at the party platforms and what they say they stand for. And the first thing I noted was that nothing I was taught lined up with the Democratic Party platform. So immediately I'm confused. So I go home during one of my trips and I say, Mom, Dad, explain this to me. Why is it that we are Democrats? Because they don't believe in anything we stand for. The answer I got was, Republicans hate black people. I said, really? Now, I want you to understand the context in which they gave that answer, because my father and mother were both born in the South, Louisiana and Georgia, and they were raised in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And the people who were perpetrating the greatest harm on them during all that time were Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, Condoleezza Rice says the only reason her father was able to register to vote was because the Republican Party allowed him to register, not the Democrats. And believe it or not, even she was a Democrat until 1982, when she realized that she couldn't put up with the foreign policy any longer. So I decided that maybe there was something there that I was missing, and I wanted to find out for myself. So I joined the college Republicans at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. Didn't tell my parents yet. And 3 months after joining, I went to my first state convention. And it was customary at that time for the local chapters to put people up for office. So I got thrown up there. Don't know why they threw me up there, maybe because they knew I could talk. And I was thrown in as the vice president. They wanted me to run for vice president of the College Republicans of Texas. Now, I didn't know anybody there. They didn't know me. I got up there, I gave my speech. Wow, the room reacted very positively to it, and I got elected in a landslide. So here I am, a black college student, and I'm the vice president of the College Republicans of the state of Texas. And I thought to myself, if Republicans hate black people, they've got a funny way of showing it. So I went home and I said, Mom, Dad, I'm registering to vote as a Republican. You would think that I had renounced Jesus Christ, that I had joined a satanic cult. Now, I have to give my parents a lot of credit. I've heard stories from other black conservatives where they were literally disowned. My parents have never done that. They say they love me, they think the world of me, they just don't understand. Baby, why are you a Republican? And my answer is always the same. Mom, Dad, you raised me that way. And it's one of the great dichotomies that as a person who is very active in the Tea Party, I was master of ceremonies for the very first Tea Party in Maryland. And I've either spoken at Tea Parties, I've participated, I've been an exhibitor at Tea Parties, and you know, the press likes to harp on the fact, where are all the black people? Well, you know something? According to them, people like me are supposed to fear people like you. But when Eric Holder talks about my people, these are my people. All right? He may believe in selective justice, that somehow justice only applies with certain skin color, but when I think of my people, I think of people who believe in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. I think of people who believe in individual liberty and individual responsibility, which means you have the freedom to succeed, but you also have the freedom to fail, so that you learn from adversity and you pick yourself up and you start over. And it's been my experience that when you try, even if you fall, not only will people cheer for you to get back up, most Americans will help you up so you can continue on. That's been my experience. That's been my experience as a veteran. It's been my experience in the private sector. I've been in the nonprofit sector. I have not come across any area of life in America where if you play by the rules, people won't be there to cheer you on and help you up. Yep. And that really is the key. So, I recently went to the Tea Party Patriot Summit out in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was in the author's corner. And a room much like this in terms of demographics, people are walking by and I'm smiling and waving and selling my book. And somebody stops me and they ask me, can you tell us why aren't there more black people here? I said, well, it's not because they're not welcome. It's been my experience that every time I go to a Tea Party, I'm very much at home. These are the people I run into at the grocery store, the people I sit next to in church. These are the folks that I see when I'm picking up my son from school. These are everyday Americans who have been working hard all their lives. And a story I have from that very first Tea Party I did is one that I think reflects across every experience I've ever had. A 90-year-old woman in a wheelchair came out. And we had 2 weeks' notice to set up this Tea Party. We had 540 people show up at Little Solomons, Maryland. And I went to thank her for coming. And she said something to me that stuck with me always. She said, I've never done anything like this before, but I'm afraid for my country, and I need to do something. How many people can relate to that statement?
Absolutely.
Now, I have to tell you, on that first Tea Party on March 22nd of 2009, I was really concerned about our staying power. So it was great. It was a sunny day. We had a lot of people turn out, had a little ceremony where we threw fake tea boxes into the Patuxent River. But I wondered how long was it going to keep up. And then I went to the 9/12 rally in 2009. And now I have to tell you, I know there's been a lot of dispute about how many people were there. I had a friend with me, my partner with Regular Folks United. She went to the University of Michigan. So she was used to sitting in that stadium where they could put 105,000 people. And she looked around and she said, it's 1.5 million.
That's right.
There was no doubt about it.
At least.
And I remember, I was near the front, was fortunate enough to be there, and I remember looking back, and there were people as far as the eye could see. And that's when I realized that we were indeed strong enough and persistent enough. And believe me,